Hello, good morning. Hello, good evening in the UK. Welcome. My name is Arturo Mendoza. I'm the head of higher education at the British Council in Mexico City. And today I'm very pleased to welcome you all to this first session in which we will address the requirements for higher education institutions from Mexico and the UK to apply to our HE Connects grant partnership call. Before we get into the details of the call and these requirements, I would like to welcome my colleague Monica Angulo, who will give you some short advice about safeguarding. Go ahead, Moni. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone, and good evening. I'm Monica Angulo, Project Manager of Higher Education in Mexico. And before we start with the key aspects of the call, I would like to share with you that British Council has a safeguarding policy. In our work, we meet with many people, both children and adults, who are potentially at risk for a variety of reasons. So we aim to create a safe environment in which no one will experience harm, abuse, or any kind of exploitation during their contact with us. Your protection is our commitment. Therefore, we have a few notes to share before we start. This session is being recorded and will be available in our YouTube and Facebook pages where it's being live broadcasted. You are welcome and encouraged to post your comments and questions. Feel free to do so anonymously if you are on Zoom and prefer not to share your name. Also, please share your comments and questions in a respectful and positive communication. Any harmful, violent, or inappropriate comments will not be tolerated. In addition, we encourage you to bring to our attention immediately if you have any feedback of any behavior or situation that occurs during these sessions. For more information about our safeguarding policy or any safeguarding report, please use the code display on the screen. We thank you all for your commitment to creating a safe and respectful environment for everyone. And now I'm going to pass the floor to my colleague, Arturo Mendoza, who will present this opportunity. Over to you, Arturo.
Thank you very much, Moni. Very important information. Please do consider, well, Moni just mentioned that this session is going to be, will be recorded. That's important. But also we have the Q&A box that you will be able to use to type your early questions. Please use that feature. Also, questions are welcome in both English and Spanish. And do remember that a Q&A session, a more formal Q&A session, will follow after the presentation. So that's important for you to be aware of. So now let's talk a little bit more about HE Connects. To begin with, it's important for you to know that HE Connects, this is the second year that the British Council opens HE Connects Grant Partnership Call. But this is the first year that it opens only for partnerships with Mexico. Last year, we had HE Connects with both Mexico and Brazil. And this year, we made some tweaks to the call. We included some country-specific demands. And HE Connects is open, I repeat, only for partnering with Mexico. Very important to share with you, we are very happy that it's our 90th birthday. As you know, the British Council has been around for many years, building understanding through arts, education, and English. And we have presence in over 100 countries, and that includes Mexico City, in which we have our country office. Before we get into the details of HE Connects, it's important to understand which is the programmatic framework of HE Connects. And the British Council has a flagship higher education program, which is Going Global Partnerships, that we use to support more equitable, inclusive, and internationally connected higher education sector. Now, Going Global Partnerships includes grants and funding to support partnerships to build opportunities in transnational education, for internationalization, in order to share good practices with international partners. And also, HE Connect sits under this wider offer of the Going Global partnerships that the British Council has. Which is the strategic context of HE Connects? Besides Going Global Partnership Program, and that HE Connects opened in 2023, it's also relevant to mention that HE Connects also builds on UK's international education strategy, particularly on those areas which are related to transnational education. Also, it connects with British Council's TNE strategy that was launched last year during our Going Global conference in Edinburgh. And it also connects with British Council's guides on TNE partnerships with Mexico. So all of these elements, you're going to see that there are many links in the guide application in which you're going to be able to read more about all these strategic context that basically is the foundation of HE Connects, and every proposal that is submitted under the umbrella of HE Connects should connect to this strategic context. Which is the objective of HE Connects then? The most important objective of HE Connects is to support institutional partnerships between Mexico and UK higher education institutions, but it has two options. For those higher education institutions that are just identifying potential partners in Mexico, well, you can use HE Connects to support you in the pre-establishment of a partnership for internationalization with Mexico. For those that already have a good understanding with a good number of higher education institutions in Mexico, HE Connects also supports you in the operation, management, and quality assurance stages linked to the cooperation agreements that you have with Mexican higher education institutions. So both are welcome, those in earlier stages and those that are already having some sort of progress in the cooperation with Mexican higher education institutions. Now, which is the eligibility requirements that we have? To begin with, all applicants must be higher education institutions from Mexico and the UK. That's the most important requirement. Now, we should have always one leading higher education institution from the UK, and this institution should have the capacity to receive and administer the grant from the British Council, and also to lead on the reporting of the project's progress and its results. Once you are selected in the British Council, we have very specific M&E requirements. So our communication is always directly with the leading institution in the UK, who is accountable to present all of the reports that we ask for to monitor the progress of the project. Now, all applications and supporting documentation that you're going to be able to read in the guide application that it's in the website of HE Connects must be sent to my colleague Monica Angulo by the UK lead and before the application's deadline, which is on September the 5th. Now, we must always have one partner and co-leading higher education institution from Mexico. It is expected that building the proposal should include always your partner from Mexico for you to co-design, which is going to be the scope of the project that you want to submit under HE Connect. So the cooperation with the Mexican higher education institution is fundamental, desired, and required. Higher education institutions from Mexico and the UK must provide letters signed by delegated authorities within their institutions. Now, do bear in mind these letters because it usually takes some time for you to get the letters from your boss, provost, or the heads of departments of sectors from your higher education institutions. I know that we are in the summer and it's always hard to get those letters in short notice. But the good news is that we still have plenty of time for you to work on not only the application but also on the letters that are being asked as supporting documentation for you to apply for an HE Connects grant. Now, associate higher education institutions and sector bodies can collaborate in the project's delivery, always having active agreements with the leading or co-leading higher education institutions and being fully accountable of their activities to the leading higher education institutions. This is going to be important once we explain the breakdown of the budget, because we have a section, a specific section for you to use UK expertise in the project's delivery. So sometimes we are asked about the possibility of higher education institutions in working with specific sector bodies in higher education for you to collaborate in the delivery of the project. So I'll get to that during the explanation of breakdown budget. Funding. Now, the funding, we have funding for up to 3 projects for a 12-month period each, starting from January 2025. Now, we have 2 options. The first option is funding available for previous HE Connects projects that were funded in 2023. We are offering a maximum of £10,000, obviously for projects that wish to build on the outputs and results of their project funded in 2023. But of course, the British Council would be expecting a very solid justification of how this is going to build on the results and outcomes of your 2023 collaboration. And we are also supporting new partnerships that weren't funded in 2023, and we are offering a maximum of £23,000 for those new partnerships. Again, I repeat, it's a project that needs to be delivered in a 12-month period and should start in January 2025. This is the most important part of the whole presentation, I would say, which is how are you expected to build your delivery plan, and which are the outcomes that are expected from an HE Connects project. HE Connects in 2024, which is opening only for Mexico, for partnering with Mexico, must contribute to at least one of the 4 core expected outcomes. You will find those 4 expected outcomes in the purple boxes. And the purpose of those boxes and expected outcomes is for the British Council to have measurable data once we finish the delivery of all of our HE Connects collaborations. Now, which are some of these expected outcomes? To begin with, HE Connects can help you to build, design, and implement new or updated international strategies for internationalization in higher education institutions, including toolkits for staff from international offices at higher education institutions. A second outcome could be HE Connects can support for meetings and forums to identify HE programs for the potential delivery of joint curricula with international partners. And this would connect with our TNE strategy, not only as the British Council, but also the UK government's international strategy. Another outcome could be in which HE Connects could help to enable thematic panels and policy dialogues on the internationalization of higher education and regulatory frameworks for the recognition of higher education qualifications. And the 4th possible outcome for an HE Connect project could be the design and operation of one specific UK-Mexico joint teaching program. And this applies particularly for those institutions that already have an ongoing collaboration in which they have already identified which is going to be the type of programs that they would like to offer, and they just need to make some tweaks to finish and perfectionate the structure of the program before it's launched. So all of these are potential outcomes that are expected, and HE Connects project should pick at least one of these outcomes in the delivery plan. And also you should be mindful for the whole delivery plan that you should include safeguarding considerations. For example, if you will be hosting forums and events, safeguarding is important. Environmental considerations also, and equality, diversity, and inclusion. For example, if you're coordinating panels, that you guarantee that in the coordination of the panel, you will have gender balance, etc. So during the whole delivery of your HE Connects projects, you should be mindful of all those three elements, because these are cross-cutting priorities for the implementation of any project that it's being funded by the British Council. Also important for you to consider during the delivery of your HE Connect project, it's going to be communications. And it's important for you to you're expected to outline the plan for the communication of the project's results with wider higher education audiences. That include, for example, HE Connect institutions, sector agencies and bodies, government officials from Mexico and the UK, and other relevant HE actors. Of course, you wouldn't be alone in the identification of all those potential actors. If you are granted with an HE Connects seed funding, then you will have regular communications with the British Council, and we will be able to provide valuable information for you to coordinate this presentation of results. We encourage all of our applicants to use digital platforms for the delivery of at least one presentation of project's results, which needs to be considered in your plan, in your delivery plan, and in your budget. And we suggest all applicants that this presentation, or at least every proposal, should aim at having registrations from 250 to 300 interested parties to this presentation. Our objective is to disseminate these opportunities as much as possible, and for others to learn about the fantastic work that UK and Mexican higher education institutions are doing or will be doing on their HE Connects. Now, this is the section that I was talking about earlier, which is the breakdown budget. And it's important for you to consider the do's and the don'ts when you are planning your breakdown budget. Which are the do's? Which obviously you'll see that HE Connects is a very flexible tool. So you will be able to have more do's and don'ts in practice. So please do use and complete the budget sheet supplied within the grant call documentation, which is going to be available always in the website of HE Connects. Also, again, as I said, do consider investment in your communication plan and in your marketing, particularly thinking of that one presentation of the results that I was just talking about. Also, do include any match and supplementary funding from participant higher education institutions. This is important, as in the next few minutes, I'm going to explain which are the criteria for the assessment of the applications. Also, do be strategic in your allocations for international travel and subsistence, because you need to make use of digital tools and be mindful of carbon footprint always. And also do include international bank transfer costs under miscellaneous. This is important because the UK leading institution will be transferring funds to the Mexican higher education partner, so transfers may be charged for this purpose. Now, do not exceed the cap of 30% from the total grant to cover for permanent or project staff costs. Please do not exceed the cap of 20% from the total grant for travel to pay for travel and subsistence. Do not use UK expertise for travel and subsistence. Expertise costs are expected to be strategic. And here's where the participation of potential associate institution sector bodies in Mexico and the UK is important, because in many occasions they do feed into project's delivery with expertise or with keynote speeches or with specific activities. So if you are going to be thinking of including UK expertise as part of your breakdown budget, be mindful that this needs to be strategic. This needs to connect very well with your project delivery and with the tops and caps that you have of each section of the budget. And last but not least, do not include domestic travel in your allocation for travel and subsistence, because all domestic travel sits under operational and activity costs. We know that the cap for travel and subsistence is already, limited. So you really need to be strategic to use that 20% for issues related to international travel. So domestic travel needs to be included under operation. Having said this, then let's go to the assessment criteria of an HE Connects proposal. Now, all proposals that we're going to be receiving under HE Connects will be assessed by an internal panel in the British Council, which will have representation from our central teams, our regional and country teams. So that's going to give us the balance, to incorporate all of the elements that are key to assess any proposal undergoing Global Partnerships Program. Now, specifically for HE Connects, all proposals will be assessed considering the following weights: 30% for quality and relevance of the proposal, 25% for adherence and institutional buy-in, and that's why the letters of support are going to be very important for us to read. 25% for project sustainability and plans for continued capacity strengthening. 10% for track record of partnership between higher education institutions. And in here, particularly for those that will be working on the pre-establishment of a partnership with Mexico, it doesn't matter if this is going to be your first partnership with Mexico. If you have any track record of partnering with other higher education institutions worldwide, you can include that in your project, in your guide, in your templates, so we can assess that 10% accordingly. And 5% goes for match funding from UK higher education institutions and or partners in Mexico. Which are our key dates for 2024? So next, in only a few weeks from today, on 14th of August, we're going to have a second Q&A session. Please do consider that it's going to take place at 17 hours Mexico City time. That would be overnight in the UK. So if you in the UK won't be able to join for this webinar, then make sure you share all of your comments and questions to your Mexican partner so that the Mexican partner can join the call and they can ask all the questions as needed because they're going to be able to ask them in Spanish either way. Unless you want to stay, overnight and listen to HE Connects in the midnight. But please make sure you contact your Mexican partners for them to make those questions, or to contact me or Monica, via email, and we can have, a one-to-one session anytime, to clear out all of your questions and doubts on the call. On September the 5th, we're going to be closing this call. So make sure you submit all of your applications before this deadline. October the 1st, we're expecting to announce the results of the assessment. From the 2nd of October to the 29th of October, we will be working with the selected higher education institutions from the UK in the procurement, meaning signing the contracts. And by November, the British Council would be transferring the funds, 100% of the grant, to the UK higher education institutions. Everything should be set up and ready for you to kickstart your partnering project by January 2025. So having said this, now I think it's safe to say that we can move to the Q&A session. Moni, unless we have any questions on the Q&A feature that you would like to share with the audience?
Yes, we do have a variety of questions. I have answered some of them in the Q&A chat box, but I will start with the first one, an answer of Roxana Gutierrez Romero. Her question is the total pot of all new projects 23K, or will this pot be divided in 3 projects? This part is not clear in the guidelines. If you could clarify, that will be great.
Sure. So thank you for the question. It's 23K tops for one project. That means that we're going to be paying for 3 projects, 23K each. So we have a total pot of 69K for 3 projects.
Thank you. Another question from Roxana. For those choosing enabling thematic panels in the UK and Mexico, can you clarify how much from the grant can be used for international travel? The guidelines seems to say that is capped to 20% of the budget. Then the other 80%, what expenses can be charged to such thematic panels?
Yeah, so that's also a very good question. You're right. The cap for international travel and subsistence is 20%, definitely. Now, the rest of the money can be used to pay for keynote speeches, master classes that can be delivered online or just using digital platforms. As I was mentioning, there's a chance for you to use UK expertise. That would include also sector bodies and other experts from higher education institutions. The most important element here, folks, is that we also know that higher education institutions are already experts themselves. So we are expecting for all the applicant higher education institutions to use that infrastructure that they already got established to maximize the value for money from this small grant. So the more academic scholars, administrative bodies that you can use from within your own higher education institutions, the better. Yet, again, I repeat, you got those caps for international travel, those caps for UK expertise. There's the chance for you to use that money for marketing and communications, and also for you to include other sort of materials that you're going to be able to use to prepare for those workshops. But yeah, again, I repeat, yes, we have a cap of 20% for international travel and subsistence.
Thank you, Arturo. A question for Miller Alonso. For the delivery plan, are you expecting the same communication targets for all successful grants, regardless if they receive 10K or 23K?
No, obviously, I think that's going to be that needs to adapt to the scope of the proposal that you're going to be submitted, and also to the what to the outcomes that you're going to be working towards. Because as you see, there are many outcomes. So, for example, one of your outcomes is more connected to the co-design of a joint curricula. Then, I mean, it's clear that the audience is going to be administrative bodies within your higher education institutions. But for example, if the outcome is going to be a policy dialogue in which you're going to be discussing about, wider quality assurance and, fair access in higher education, then you are expected to include, wider audiences such as, government bodies, sector bodies, regulatory bodies. So it all depends on the scope of your proposal, how deep you get into the proposal, and which is the outcome that you're going to be choosing for the delivery plan they're going to be submitting.
Great, thank you. A question from Juan Garcia. How can we share our info as a Mexican institution in case there is a UK uni interested in ours?
Yes, thank you. I mean, you can share this information with Monica and I, with the higher education team. We do have a bank of, we try to have a bank of potential, partners from Mexico and the UK. The kind of information that we usually need is not only the information of your specific organization, who you are, the kind of sectors in which you work. If you work in research, which are the priority areas that you have. So once we have any sort of conversations with UK higher education institutions, we can provide them also a map of which are those potential partners are looking for partners in the UK. But do send that information to Monica and myself, and we will be happy to share it with the UK sector as soon as possible.
Great. From an anonymous attendee, can the funding be used to support a master's student research project, which would be carried out partly in Mexico and partly in the UK?
No, definitely, it cannot be used to support a master student. I mean, it's not the scope of the call. So we really need to focus on, trying to deliver TNE opportunities and other sorts of high-level policy dialogues in the area of higher education. But yeah, it's definitely not the sort of research collaboration that we have under other sort of schemes.
Thank you. A question from Kat Shepard. I work for a vocational college offering degree-level higher education programs. However, we don't have our own awarding powers. These are awarded by our partner university. Would we be eligible to apply?
If you mean that you have a partner of university in the UK, then I think that the best way would be for you to apply through the awarding university, because definitely an HE Connects project is expected to assess many things related, for example, to quality assurance, and only the awarding institution will have that closeness to what QAA and other governance bodies in the UK required for the recognition of higher education qualifications. So my advice would be for you to join through the HE uh, provider, and for you as an associate or partner to join the project as an associate. But yeah, I definitely would encourage you to join through the awarding institution.
Thank you. Another question, can we focus more on the outcome of international partnership from policy and research side instead of teaching curriculum?
Yes, yes, of course. And this is very important because, we've been receiving questions about research, and we are familiar that there is a very important track record of science cooperation between Mexico and the UK. But the most important thing here is for us to acknowledge that this isn't a science cooperation grant funding. When we say about research cooperation and policy dialogues, is for you to nurture in the understanding of the many areas that HE cooperation encompass. That means not only research cooperation, but how inclusion in the research area matters, or also how all these research cooperation may or may not connect to the teaching, because at the end the people that's working on the curricula of your programs are mostly academics from your own higher education institutions. So the kind of cooperation that comes from research cooperation, it also connects in one way or another to teaching. So even if formally you are not aiming and having a joint curricula or a joint program by the end of the HE Connect projects, do be mindful that what we want to do is to nurture into the understanding of the journey that will take us from where we are now to a context in which we'll be able to offer more joint programs, more dual degrees. So just when you have this delivery plan, and if you're trying to connect it with your research, also have in mind that in the long term, what we really want to nurture, what we really want to have is a wider offer of dual programs and joint programs online offer for Mexican and British students. So again, yes, it's okay if you are not targeting right now to having by the end of HE Connects a joint program, but also aim at having one in the long term, even when you are designing your plan, your delivery plan in a more light context than the formal dual degree.
Great, Arturo. Uh, a question from Nadieshba Cabral. Do you have a list of past projects approved? And Desislava Staneva has the same question. Do you have a list of universities that have collaborated with you before? And can you help us find a pedagogical university in England?
Yeah, I mean, we do have the list of the projects that were funded in 2023. There were 3 projects. The list is available in the website of HE Connects 2023 in the British Council page. So there are the name of the universities, the name of the project. Now, it's important for you to consider that this year HE Connects had meaningful tweaks to the design of the call, and the outcomes are more tailored to the Mexican context, because last year it was a more open call to wider cooperation with the Americas, because it included Brazil. So the projects may be different in scope and definition, but could definitely help you to understand which is the main purpose of supporting an HE Connects projects by the British Council. So please do check the HE Connects 2023 call, and there's a list of participant institutions that you will be able to check anytime. And if you have any questions on those institutions and on those projects, you do drop me or Monica a line, and we will be able to provide more information.
I just posted in the chat box the link to the list of projects that were supported in the call of last year, in case you are you want to take a look of that. From an anonymous attendee, Mexican higher education institutions needs to be a public institution, could be a private like ITESM.
Yes, of course. This call is open to both public and private higher education institutions from Mexico and the UK. So definitely ITESM can apply to this call.
Next question. Regarding the staff costs, are there any guidelines on how to present this? Staff costs could highly differ from between institutions.
Well, there's not, and Moni, please pitch in if I'm missing anything here, but there's no specific guidance. As a British Council, what matters most, at least for HE Connects, is for you to have a clear identification if that cost would go to a permanent or a non-permanent staff member. That's the first question that you'll need to answer. And the second one is a consideration that anything that you use under staff costs should not go beyond the cap of I think it's, I forgot, 30%, right, Moni? So that's the only thing that we basically going to be assessing in the sheet, in the budget sheet. But again, we do not have much detailed guidance on how you use that distribution. But just consider the two things that I just mentioned, and that would be basically covering everything that we need to assess for HE Connects.
Also important to mention that we do have a spreadsheet of budget where you forecast all your costs. So the spreadsheet is very intuitive and it guides you through the guidelines that Arturo previously mentioned. So this spreadsheet will be very useful for everyone that wants to apply. So the next question of Hector Becerril, associated higher education institutions can be from other Latin American countries, Global South countries?
Well, this call, again, this is a very different scope from what we had in 2023, in which we also offer the opportunity for trilateral projects, including Brazil, Mexico, and the UK. But on this occasion, we are targeting at building the Mexico-UK higher education cooperation. So on this occasion, unfortunately, yes, institutions need to be from Mexico and the UK. But of course, I mean, if there is any sort of contribution that it's not going to be paid with HE Connect's budget, but again, in one way or another connects to the delivery of your project, then it's more than welcome. But do consider that no money can be transferred to any of these institutions unless it has to do with your connections that you already have. For example, I'll give you one example. Let's say that you have a contact, a very important contact in the HE sector in Argentina, and you want to include this person in one of the workshops that you're going to be giving under your delivery plan for HE Connects. Then that person is included in the Zoom webinar, and that's it, right? No payment, it's included. No sort of transfer to Argentina, it's being considered. So that's okay. But by the end, the purpose of the call is to have UK-Mexico partnership, and the outcome of the call is to nurture UK-Mexico higher education sector. But that's it.
Thank you, Arturo. A question from Jose Manuel Cabrera Miranda. Do proposals need a detailed schedule of activities?
Yeah, of course. Everything needs to be very carefully planned. And Monica just mentioned that we have all these templates in the application sheets and forms. You will find all of these templates in the website of HE Connects 2024. And the application form has, very specific questions on, when are you planning to deliver, what you're planning to deliver, which is your expected outcomes, by when you are planning to have all those outcomes. So yes, it is definitely important for you to have everything under schedule, because obviously you will be presenting progress reports and the British Council will be assessing all of that progress against the objectives and against the schedules that you set in the application form. So the application form definitely matters, and as much detail as you can include in your application form, the better for us, to help you and accompany through the implementation of the project in 2025.
The next question is from Daniel Espinosa Freire. Are projects for dual degree master's and doctoral programs eligible?
Well, if it depends, right? I mean, if you mention if they are eligible to use HE Connect's money to pay for, let us say, the mobility of students under those programs, the answer is no. But if you are kind of thinking in ways to improve or to make tweaks to the project and the program, meaning, for example, let us say that you're offering a dual degree with X university in astrophysics, and it's a PhD program, and you've seen that there are some areas of improvement, and you would like to open the box to understand which areas can be changed, to assess, the curricula that's being offered under this program with your partner and with Mexican authorities. Then, I mean, you can use HE Connects to that, because that would be, a way to nurture the sort of structure of the joint program that you are offering already. But again, I repeat, if your question was in the way of using that money to pay for the mobility of PhD students that are being part of that program, then the answer is no.
Thank you, Arturo. Next question from Pavel Albores. Can you please give examples of the deliverables expected? I can see wide differences between the different objectives.
Yes, I mean, the deliverables are basically the outcomes that are in the purple boxes. And I think that it all depends on, as you just said, whether you are in the pre-establishment of the partnership or if you're already in an ongoing or very active partnership with the UK. Let us say that let's put the example of the pre-establishment of a collaboration, right? There's one outcome that I mentioned, in which is to design or to update the strategy of internationalization of your higher education institution. What we've seen is that there are many HE institutions, both in Mexico and the UK, that they do not have specifically a strategy for internationalization in place. So to begin with, if you are establishing a partnership with the UK or with any university abroad, then the first thing that you will need to have is an international strategy for you to see which are the objectives for your institution to support internationalization. Do they wish to internationalize? If the answer is yes, then in which areas do you need to internationalize, and how would you wish to internationalize? Which is the capacity that your institution has for internationalization? Do they have money to do that? If they do not have money, then how do you think it's going to be able to support your strategy of internationalization? So if you are in the pre-establishment stage, then the outcome that perfectly fits with you is the design of a strategy for internationalization, having as a deliverable the toolkits for your ambassadors of internationalization in your institution, so they can use all these toolkits in the future and start building partnerships with the UK and other institutions. If you are in a more developed partnership, which would be, for example, the case of already having a dual degree, and you only need to open the box to understand if the curricula is working or if it needs more tweaks, then that's another type of outcome, which would be having workshops, having technical sessions with the teams to make improvements to the program, and then launch a new program, a 2.0 program with the particularly areas that address the concerns that you originally have. So it all depends on the objectives of your institution and in which stage of internationalization you are.
Thank you, Arturo. A question from Jorge Membrillo. I work at the Tec de Monterrey, and we would like to start a partnership with UCL on STEM education. Can the money be used for starting this collaboration with an analysis and digital platforms? I could be the PI in Mexico, and I have a PI partner in London. The money will be managed by the UK institution or the Mexican one?
Well, the money will be administered fully by the UK higher education institution, because the money will be transferred by the PC by the British Council to the UK higher education institution. However, the UK higher education institution is in the capacity of transferring funds to its partner in Mexico. So you will need to have an agreement in place with the UK higher education institution to work on those transfers accordingly based on the scope of your project delivery. Now, you definitely can partner with UCL. It all depends on the scope of the project that you will wish to offer. Just be mindful of the objectives of HE Connects, of the strategic background of HE Connects, and on the four potential outcomes, which are those purple boxes that we really need to look forward when we are assessing the HE Connects proposal. So at least you'll need to choose one of those to connect with your whole collaboration project with UCL.
Thank you, Arturo. Many people are sharing their contact details in the chat box. Sandra Hernandez Salazar also mentioned that she's interested, she's part of the Universidad del Valle de Atemajac, and she's willing to participate. So feel free to share your contact details in the chat so people can reach you out, but also feel free to contact Arturo and I. I will share our emails in both chat box and the Q&A box. So another question from Roxana Gutierrez. If I'm not mistaken, the emphasis of the call seems to be on sharing the grant 50-50 with the UK and Mexican partner and on growing research capacity. So does that mean that 50% of the budget will be given directly to the Mexican higher education for partner to manage their respective budget for international travel and hiring expertise?
Okay, that's a very good question. So we're definitely looking for equitable partnerships. That means that's why it's important for the Mexican partner to be part of the co-design of the proposal that you're going to submit under HE Connects. Now, the British Council will be, again, transferring the 100% of the grant by the end of this year to the UK higher education institution. And the UK higher education institution would be in the possibility of transferring funds from this grant to the Mexican partner. Now, how much of this fund is going to be transferred by the UK higher education institution to the Mexican partner? That's going to depend on the scope and what you present in the call. I cannot say if it's going to be a 50-50, but it's definitely expected for you to use also that money to cover for the objectives and for the expected outcomes of the project that you're going to be submitting. So that's a sort of understanding that you'll need to have with your partner in the UK during the submission of the application form and in the budget sheet that you're going to be presenting with the application. Monica just mentioned that there is a breakdown budget that you'll need to submit, which is an Excel sheet. And in that part, there's a specific column for you to include costs that are going to be covered by Mexico, costs that are going to be covered for activities in the UK. And that will give you a sort of idea, which is the kind of balance that you would like to have for your project. But definitely that's something that you'll need to discuss with your partner in the UK.
Thank you, Arturo. Next question from Kenzie Peña. My question is about the eligible Mexican institutions. I work in a federal research center, but it doesn't deliver any college degree. According to the website, only the UK institution should be able to deliver them, but it doesn't explain anything about the Mexican one.
Well, the Mexican higher education institution includes not only universities, public and private, but also it includes technological institutes. It also includes research centers, private and public. So we already have experience working, for example, with public research centers from Mexico that are under the umbrella of CONACYT. So, I mean, there are some of those research centers that basically offer PhD and post-doc projects to Mexican students and from students abroad. So if the TNE or the joint program or the joint offer or the whole project has in mind, working with that sort of offer that you have for young researchers, of early career researchers in the research center, then that's possible. I think that it would all depend on the sort of tweaks that you do to present the delivery plan and the scope that you wish to cover based on the HE Connect's objectives and expected outcomes.
Thank you, Arturo. Next question from Mario Santos. There is no restrictions about education sector, arts, for example. We have a music university.
Yes, no, there's no restriction on the sector. as soon as it connects with higher education, as soon as it connects with HE connects objectives and outcomes, then I mean we can be talking about I don't know a joint offer in contemporary arts or contemporary dance. I mean, I would be more than happy that in the short term we can have a Mexican and a UK higher education institution offering opportunities or HE qualifications for people in the arts. That's also possible. So all sectors are welcome, not only STEM. You can think about humanities, arts in general too.
Thank you, Arturo. Lionel Lara Estrada, so we, the UK partner, can we use the funding to provide online teaching in the Mexican Partner Master Program, correct?
I think that this question is similar to the one that was made by the PhD colleague in a few minutes ago. I mean, HE Connect School cannot be used to pay for mobility or um, any sort of yes, also mobility or support to ongoing PhD master programs. It has to do more with the design of the curricula. It has to do more with the theory behind, you know, the program that you're offering. And I think that this question is tricky. I mean, it would all depend on how you present the proposal, because it definitely has to do with the operation of a joint program, right? But I think that you will need to be very clear on how you using those funds to pay for teaching for the master program is also helping to advance in the monitoring of the project or the dual program that you are offering, and how through the funding that you are using to those teaching opportunities, you are planning to improve the delivery of the project that you are giving with your partner. So again, it would all depend on how you present the proposal and how deep will you go into how that seed funding is being used to improve or monitor the operation of the collaboration that you already have with your Mexican partner.
Thank you, Arturo. Next question from Carolina Camacho. Is there any limit in the number of universities that are collaborating together? How do you present the case of several universities participating?
I mean, you can have more. The key part here is that you will always have one leading institution from the UK and one co-leader from Mexico. The leader will receive the funding from the British Council, and the UK leader will be able to transfer funds to the Mexican co-leader. Now, having said this, which is like the top requirement of the call, you can have associate organizations that can help you in the delivery of the project. And those associates can have memorandums of understanding or agreements with you as a co-leader or as a leader, and they can be part of the project delivery. And you can have as many associate institutions as you wish, right? You will need to be very specific once you present your proposal. Who are those associates? How they're going to be contributing to project delivery? If you're expecting to use part of the funding that the UK university will be transferring to you to pay for specific activities, which activities are, how much would we be talking about? And I think that's going to be key for us to understand the reach of the project that you wish to have. I mean, to me, it's natural to think that if the project needs to be very ambitious and wants to have a very big reach, then you should include as much associates as possible to help you connect with that reach. In the case of Mexico, which is a federal system, it's very common that you have federal organizations such as Tecnológico Nacional or even networks that do have offices and departments everywhere in the country. So if you are leading as part of one state the collaboration with the UK, but you wish to expand the reach of the collaboration and include other states in Mexico or even the national context, then to me, it's natural for you to include associate organizations. So my advice to you would be, do consider which are going to be those associates, include that information in the template or in the application form, and do be very specific about the activities in which those associates will be contributing to project delivery, and how it connects with the value for money of the whole small grant that you're going to be receiving for the delivery of HE Connects. Do consider that, I mean, to me, £23,000 is a lot, right? But I know that when we're talking about, this sort of cooperation and projects, I mean, it's not that much. So do be very strategic on how you're planning to spend that money, and be mindful, of all of those expenses that need to be covered and the caps. And that's, the basic rule of everything. And that will give you a more clear understanding of what to include and what really do not to include right now, and wait until you have, another stage of the collaboration or another opportunity to work with your partner. It all depends on your ambition and on the scope of the intervention that you wish to present.
Thank you, Arturo. We have several questions asking, I know you answered it already, but if they can partner with non-higher education institutions in the UK as associate partners. But the answer is yes, correct?
Yes, I mean, if these are, for example, sector bodies, there are many higher education institutions that, when talking about the recognition of HE qualification, they always wish to include people from QAA, people from the Scottish qualifications framework. I mean, that's okay. You just need to be very clear on who you are including and in which activities are you including. If you are planning to transfer any sort of funds, in which area of the budget you will be covering that. If it's going to be UK expertise, then just mention it. Be very clear on the information that you present, and that would be okay.
Thank you. Next question from Alexandru Stancu. We are Manchester Robotics Limited, a spin-out of the University of Manchester in UK. We already have a very strong collaboration with Tec de Monterrey, more than 4 years, as well as with other HE from Mexico. Is it possible to apply for this grant as a spin-out? I mean, as a company from UK, the main activity of Manchester Robotics is in the HE sector, providing curriculum in robotics and AI, and collaboration in research for robotics and AI.
Wow, that's a very complex question, right? I don't know if I get it, if I fully get it, Money, but again, I would advise for him to drop us a message so I can get more into the details of his question. But my advice would be, again, as I advise the other technical college, for you to partner with the higher education institution itself and to work with them in the delivery of a joint cooperation. It's always better to have the higher education institution on board because, again, I repeat, at the end, if the purpose of everything related to HE Connects is to foster understanding or to foster capacity, to have joint programs, dual programs, distance learning opportunities, you will always need to go back to HE qualifications, regulatory frameworks, HE demands, and that has to do with everything that the administrative bodies from higher education institutions do. So do always connect with them, and I do see value in having always a partnership with a higher education institution in the UK that connects with the higher education institution in Mexico, because at the end those are the kind of actors that will need to connect with wider regulatory frameworks at national levels.
Thank you, Arturo. We have many more questions, but I choose only 2 more to answer.
Yeah.
In case that we do not answer in this webinar, we will contact you directly. So next question is, can we as UK higher education institutions submit 2 proposals with different Mexican institutions?
Well, yes, of course. I mean, sky is the limit, right? That would be a very ambitious bid, right? But again, the point here is that it's valid for you to work with another Mexican partner and submit different proposals. But obviously, that makes sense that we're going to be very careful, in the proposal that's going to be submitted to double check that we're not talking about very similar one, right? I mean, if you are submitting separately with another Mexican higher education institution, is because you've seen that the nature of your relationship with that institution is totally different to the one that you're having with another. And it makes sense for you to work on a specific offer tailored for the demand of the Mexican partner. However, there's also the case in which maybe, we have similar stages of two Mexican higher education institutions, and there may be some value in even connecting them, in trying to understand maybe which is the way in which you can not only have a one-to-one partnership, but a trilateral partnership between two Mexican higher education institutions and yours. It all depends on the scope, but I totally get that there are some times in which the nature of the relationship with each university is totally different. So you will need to present separate bids. But again, that I'm going to leave that to you. But yes, again, it's possible to submit separate bids.
Thank you, Arturo. And the last question we're going to answer, for associate partners, do they need to have a pre-existing MOU with the UK or Mexican higher education institution?
I think that depends more on you, right? The British Council will not be transferring any sort of funds to them or working with them. The UK university is going to be, fully accountable of that. And I think that it all depends if part of the nature of the relationship that you're going to have with those associates requires some sort of transferring funds from the leader of the co-leader, then I would like to assume that you folks would need to have a memorandum of understanding for you to transfer those funds to the associate. But again, that question goes back to the participant institution. Just be mindful of your own administrative requirements before you include an associate organization, because what if you include one and you weren't aware that you really need to have an MOU, and just during the implementation, your administrative body tells you, why are you transferring funds to this X institution if we really don't have any sort of partnership with them? How are you going to justify that transfer of funds, right? So just be mindful of all those administrative considerations within your institutions, and that would be okay.
Thank you, Arturo. We will be contacting you directly for those that we haven't answered your questions. And I think we're running out of time. It's already 11:02. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Have a fantastic day.